Hello, communications class. I hope we're all having a great day, a great week, a great time filming our speeches. I know that this assignment can cause us to step outside of our comfort zones, including myself. So I give us a round of applause for even attempting. My name is Dylan Moore, and today I'll be giving an informative speech on the effects of extended lockdowns in China. Locked in our homes, the government tells us that we can't leave or go to work. An unknown virus called COVID-19 is spreading rapidly across the planet. While leaving many people without jobs and homes, there are also many conspiracies floating around about vaccines, leaving communities torn within themselves. Yes, this is Earth. It is no secret to the public that different countries are handling this virus in different ways. Therefore, we are seeing that the way of life is different in many countries. In China, people are currently going through a zero COVID lockdown. This means the government wants 0 cases of COVID reported throughout the country in major cities. In 2020, the style of lockdown worked to an extent. Seeing a positive effect in the past, the lockdown was put back into place during the spread of the Omicron variant. After recovering from the first lockdown, the economy and people were in shock once this was put back into place. The Chinese government is, of course, the final decider and has done great things for the Chinese people in the past. But if these ways of lockdown are to remain in place, there will be long-term effects that will leave people without jobs, affects the process of global trade, and have effects on the overall state of mind of the Chinese people. Many people of China are out of work, leaving feelings of anxiety throughout the population. The New York Times has a story about a resident named Zhang Jialin, who was in lockdown for over a month. After he was finally cleared for his release, there was a positive test within the crowded isolation unit he was in. This led to Zhang having to stay for another 14 days. After a phone interview in the facility, the man stated, "I have 3 kids, one in college, middle school, and elementary school. The pressure is huge." And after talking about how his $30 daily wage supported his family, he then said, "I also owe money to the bank, so I'm very anxious." Zhang is unable to work currently, making his financial situation very stressful. In another case, a man named Yang Jue, a 21-year-old from Anhui province, has a job as a waiter in Shanghai when the lockdown began. Now that he is unable to work, his shared home with 4 other people has no kitchen supplies. They were unable to cook the remainder of vegetables they had, and he was eating a dwindling supply of noodles. He said, "I get up, eat, and go back to bed. Other than food, I can't really think about anything else." Another future task is going to be having jobs open for the record 11 million college students on track to graduate this upcoming semester. Luckily, there is hope for these challenges that are being faced. China's number 2 official, Li Keqiang, weighed in on the topic by stating, "We must do whatever possible to boost job creation, especially for the key groups such as college students." Hoping for a better future throughout the country on either side of the lockdown war, there are many effects that are causing other countries to not agree with the ways the virus is being handled. The main one being the slowed down process of global trade, which takes us to our second point. Many countries around the world are seeing the process of global trade slow down due to China's involvement in the manufacturing industry. An article on AlJazeera.com claims that China's strict pandemic policies have shuttered factories and prevented ships from unloading and picking up cargo. Later in the article, they share a story of a chemist in India named Ram Narayan. He is asking his worker to check the stocks of the medicines that they are supposed to have. As the employee yells back the numbers, Narayan shakes his head. When asked what is wrong, he says, "Same thing that's troubling everyone else. New lockdowns in China." India is a major drug producer, but sources 70% of its pharmaceutical ingredients from China. The lockdown in Shanghai, home of the world's largest container port, is threatening those supplies. An article on AsiaMarkets.com. They state, Stefan Vogel, Rabo Research General Manager for Australia and New Zealand, going on a recently recorded podcast called What's the Impact of China's Lockdown Wave? In this podcast, he claims there are 4 specific impacts of the lockdowns that are going to have increasing ramification on Australian agribusinesses. These disruptions to freight, logistics, Chinese corn plantings, dairy demand, and hog pricing. An article on New York Times has said that the business group warned China's policies had European companies considerably less willing to continue investing in the country. There's also a growing wonder about the overall state of mind of the Chinese people during these times of lockdown. People in lockdown in China, especially in Shanghai, are posting videos on the internet showing the poor living conditions many of them are facing. An article posted by DW.com states that people in China's business capital are flooding social media with content documenting the widespread backlash towards the city's strict lockdown. Censors have been unable to keep up. These videos show neighborhoods of people hanging out windows of their apartments, banging on pots and pans, demanding for authorities to give more food and supplies. In an article on AlJazeera.com, they call the month of April cruel for the residents of Shanghai. People were separated from families for extended periods of time, denied work, and for some even denied hospital access. There has been many effects of this lockdown, shown by no jobs, global trade slowing down, and a social media push to show the people of China are dealing with problems during this lockdown. I know human life tends to move, resolve, and evolve in a plethora of different ways. The end result is not of our knowledge. With lockdowns and viruses, there is no telling. Thank you.